We are the Orcs, and we have a plan.
To watch all of Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica.
And drink beer.
Hello friends!
Hello!
It's Peter and Anne-Marie with Borgcast Galactica 4.9.
Gosh, are we that far ahead already?
We are, yes, nearly at the end of the season now.
Wow.
Thank you to Andrew, by the way, who sent us a re-edit of Scar in chronological order.
Oh, awesome.
So we might sit down and watch that at some point.
Yes,
That'll be
please.
interesting. Yeah,
yes.
See if that works rather better. Anyway, tonight's first episode is The Captain's Hand.
Fanar, yes.
No, apparently it's titles from a poem by Sir Henry John Newbolt.
That's nice.
Your life is complete now knowing that, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it his wanking hand?
I just don't want to know.
Commander Garner on deck.
Buster, Sharp, do you read?
What have you got, Mr. Hochi?
Not sure, sir. I think Buster and Shark are declaring an emergency, but their transmission's garbled. We've lost them, sir.
So, you start off... Now, I have to say, straight up, I did not remember this episode at all.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like watching it for the first time. Nice.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, we've got a tune in the bank, haven't
Exactly. Something else in the bank for now.
Oh, stop it with the wank references already. We're not 5 minutes in.
Yeah, but I'm on my fourth pint of cider.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry. It's been a week.
For everybody, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you've got raptors and they're investigating something because another raptor had previously disappeared. But they've got issues with comms, and they say, oh, it must be the binary star, which sounded very Star Trek-y as a...
Well, they're a thing. It's all right.
Yeah, but do they really interfere with comms?
Well, they do give out electromagnetic pulses. So,
okay,
yeah,
fine.
Depending on how their comm systems are arranged, yes, makes sense.
So, anyway, you've only got a broken transmission. You can't hear everything. You don't quite know exactly what's going on. And then they disappear. And then you've got Lee and D.
Now they'll leave us alone.
Sorry, that's our sting for Lee and D.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, Lee and D, and finally they're together.
Yeah, the idea is that some time has passed since Lee got shot.
Well, yeah, because he mentions it, that,
Willy
he's
Billy
healed up and whatever.
Bought it, because otherwise it looks a bit bad that they're in bed together.
No, it does, but they make... Unlike some of the episodes where you think you're supposed to assume that time has passed, they reference it, which is fine. So yes, time has passed. They might not be specific about how much time has passed, but it's clear that it has, because his injury's healed.
And Starbuck's been fairly established at this point as the CAG on the Peggy, so...
Yeah. And she's supposed to be responsible for flight training. Apollo has been promoted to Major.
It's nothing like nepotism, is it nepotism when you promote your own family?
Yeah,
or
it is.
Simonism?
I'll come on to that later. I do think it applies here. I don't think it applies later, and I'll explain why later. But at this point, abso-fucking-lutely.
Abso-fracking-lutely.
Lucally,
yes.
It's abso-fracking-lutely, right? Okay. How many have you had?
This is only my third.
Oh, I'm a whole one ahead of you?
You are, yeah. That's what I said earlier. It's like, I just gave you a bottle.
Sorry. I must have just inhaled it. That's okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Fine. Sorry. And then you've got on the flight deck of the Galactica, there's something moving in a crate. And they're all like, shit, I don't know what it is. We'll call the Marines, whatever. And Chief is like, yeah, I'm just going to go and have a look. And Callie's like, what the fuck now? What? Yes. But it's just a person. And it's a woman. And she's pregnant. And I'm not going to do this all in chronological order because it's going to be, in terms of the order that you see it, because it's going to be easier to split it up into different plots.
Yep.
So I'm now going to run with this plot.
Okay.
Basically, Doc Cottle is running an abortion clinic.
Yep.
Now, the laws of the colonial fleet before the Cylons attacked were that abortion is legal. So he, at this point in time, whatever anyone's own personal views, he isn't doing anything wrong.
Well, certainly not doing anything illegal, yes.
Yeah. No, certainly, I mean, when I say wrong, I mean in terms of his own,
That's-
the own ethics he has to follow.
Yeah, it's a heavily
Yeah.
charged word wrong. It's
Sorry.
certainly nothing illegal anyway.
No,
He's following the law.
I meant more than that. Doctors have a code.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't breaking any doctory codes at this point, doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? It's not just that he's not doing anything illegal. He is allowed to do what he's doing as a doctor. Does that make sense?
I'm not... and she wade into the abortion debate. Yeah, that's really going to work well, isn't it? But, I don't know is the honest answer to that, what the hippopotamus ave says about abortion, to be honest. I mean, clearly, if the woman, the mother is in any risk health-wise, then it applies. If they're not, I'm not sure how that do no harm. I don't know.
Okay.
You could argue that
You could argue, it depends on what you
having
mean by
control
harm,
over a woman's decision is
there's
harmful.
psychological harm.
Yep,
as well
that's
as
fine. I
physical
can buy
harm.
that. Yeah.
So, what I'm trying to do is make it clear that Dot Cottle, for all that the woman might be seen as being dodgy, transporting herself in a crate as a stowaway.
Well, if that's her only option, I mean, that's
No, fine, but that doesn't mean that what Dot Cottle is doing at this stage is dodgy.
Yeah.
He might be trying to do it under the radar, but I think, probably the phrase I'm looking for
Ethical?
is that he isn't doing anything that would be sanctionable by his own professional body.
Right.
Sorry, I'm a registry clerk. I've gone into
I was going to beyond the fact that he smokes on the job. Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, let's face it, they can let him do that. He can do anything.
But yeah, so at this point, although she might be doing something dodgy, and you can argue either way, but the point is, as Adama says later, she is a stowaway. That in itself is dodgy. Cottle at this stage isn't doing anything dodgy.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that she's desperate and is taking any means possible.
Absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with you. And basically, what happens is you have a big debate over abortion rights because you've also got a whole presidential campaign coming into play, and the Geminese, who are the religious people, are also, because we're dealing in caricatures, because the people writing this stuff don't actually know people of faith.
Well, I don't know. Bear in mind, this has been written by somebody in the United States, and things are rather more, polarised over there, aren't they?
Most Episcopalians in the US...
Yeah, there aren't that many Episcopalians about, darling, compared to the numbers of Christians in the Deep South who are very much Geminese.
Yeah, but Baptist. Okay.
yeah.
Right, Southern Baptist. Okay. So the Geminese are Southern Baptist. Right.
It's nice to have, by the way, Patricia, I'm not sure how you pronounce the surname, Idlet, I think, who plays the Gemini representative, which she's featured before, and she's back in this.
I like that she's back again. The other thing I like is that she has her own hair. This is going to sound weird.
It does, yes. Well done.
Bear with me on this. There's a reason for this. Black women in the US and the UK, don't know about any other countries, but them two countries, come under a lot of pressure to wear wigs to make their hair look more European. And one of the things I really appreciate about the way that they have dressed and styled and everything her character is she has her own hair and skirts and heels.
Right.
So it's very much a more non-European view of femininity.
Okay.
A European view of femininity would make her have long hair as well as the skirts and the heels. But there she is, in a skirt, in heels, being very Southern Baptist, for want of a better way of putting it, with her own hair and not a wig. And I liked that. And even now, that would be an unusual step to take. Back then, that was even more unusual, and props to whoever said go with it. Anyway, what's not the actor, the character's name?
Sarah.
Sarah.
The Gemini rep, yeah.
Sarah is like properly pushing her weight around bitch style because she's just like, or basically like, we won't vote for you.
Yeah. As politicians do, I mean.
Yeah. And then Roslyn is like, effectively, fuck you, I've been fighting for women's rights all my life. But then Adama points out the survivor count.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way he does it, because he doesn't do it in a sort of really strict or forceful way. He's just like, yeah, you said the whole making babies thing. Maybe things are different now.
In a gentle word.
Unfortunately, on the other hand, Gaius Baltar is a cunt. And he just goes, yeah, we're all going to be extinct in 18 years. You've got to, like, make it that abortion is illegal. So really emotional, really finding it difficult. Rosalind is like, I've got to make this law. And Baltar is all sort of, oh yes, you know, it's made for the right reasons. But I can't agree at all, even though he was the one who fucking told her, I'm standing for president. It's like, fuck you, cunt.
Hijacks the press conference. It's amazing. Oh. And the look that Rosalind gives. Oh. And we've got her new aide here, of course, too.
Oh, Tory.
Tory, yes, unfortunate name, but we won't hold that against her.
Doesn't have the same meaning in the US as the UK.
Yes, I guess not. Played by Rekha Sharma, better known to us as...
I don't know, sorry.
You didn't recognise her?
No, I know her.
You know her.
I don't know where from.
Right, another sci-fi show.
Is it Discovery?
It is Discovery, yeah. She's Commander Landry, who's head of security in Discovery's first season before she was ripped to shreds by a tardigrade.
Yeah.
So she wasn't in that many episodes, to be fair, and it has been a while since we watched that. But it was like, when she appeared in Discovery, it's like, oh, it's what's-her-face from PSG.
Yeah. Now, what I've missed in dealing with the abortion story, I'll come to the last bit of that in a minute, is that Tom Zarek is basically working behind the scenes, trying to persuade Baltar to stand, because he knows he can't win. And he's like, oh, you remember who your friends are, whatever. So he's doing the power play.
Slimy, yes.
Being slimy. But of course, Baltar is just, you know, he's got such a fuck-off massive ego. He's like, yes, well, of course I must stand the president. You know, and all his stuff to Tom about, you know, I've not really considered it, whatever. You just know it's bollocks. He's got an ego the size of a fucking planet. Of course he wants to be president. So you could try and argue that Zarek manipulated him, but no. It's like the equivalent of saying to a small child, you know, if you hop on one foot, I'll give you all the chocolate in the world, and they're just going to hop on one foot and do it, aren't they? I mean, it's just piece of piss. So, yeah. Didn't take a lot of bribing at all. And we saw this coming. And to be fair to Galactica, when they give you the whole previously on, they show you the seeds of this. Mm-hmm. This has been sown. This isn't coming out of the blue, it's been sown. In terms of the abortion plot, they do the abortion on this particular girl who's 4 months gone before Rosalind puts the decree into effect, so no law was broken. And she says to Sarah, you know, you've had your pound of flesh. Mm. What really gets...
Well, you know where that phrase comes from?
Either Shakespeare or the Bible or both.
It is Shakespeare, yes. It's always a good bet, isn't it? It's either Shakespeare or the Bible, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
Merchant of Venice. Not, I knew that, obviously. I had to look that up. But, yeah, quite how, of course, Rosalind knows that phrase. Bit of a mystery, but there we go.
Never mind. Mm-hmm. Parallel evolution, they had their own Shakespeare.
Apparently, yes.
Yeah. But what gets me with all this stuff with the Genoese isn't actually the stuff around abortion, which I guess because we're used to it as being a subject for debate. Mm-hmm. What I found fucking chilling was earlier on when she says the child is the property of her parents. Mm. It made me want to lamp her. I was like, fucking hell, that's chilling. That's terrifying. So no wonder she fucking claims asylum. I love the scene where it happens, though.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Cottle is he's stirring so badly, isn't he?
He's stirring. It's like, you know, could claim asylum. And the look at Dom gives him, it's all the evils. It's like, fuck no.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bloody hell. So, because of the survivor count, abortion is now illegal. Mm. What isn't clear is, does that mean every kind of abortion is illegal? Because the reason I ask this and the reason I say it isn't clear is that if it's based purely on survivor count, you would think logically, it ought to be permissible if interfering with a pregnancy, which is the terminology Rosalind uses, is the only way to save the life of the mother when doing nothing risks both dying.
Yeah, so you could get a -2 on your survivor count if you're not careful. Yes.
Yeah.
And also the whole thing about, abortion's banned, but presumably fostering's still all right. So, in the case of that girl, it's not a pleasant thing giving birth, but if she's not psychologically feeling capable of being a mother at this point, then as we find out from the next episode, there are plenty of people, a long list of people, who would be happy to adopt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a solution, is to keep the survivor count up, is that rather than say abortion's banned, but you don't want to keep the child, then hand it over for fostering. That's presumably
the problem outside of the imagined universe of Galactica. The problem in reality is that it's genuinely too difficult to adopt a child and foster a child. There are insane numbers of barriers.
Well, we're not.
So you need to realise, darling, it's not reality.
So, all I'm trying to do is make it clear that we are talking very specifically about in-universe. We're not asking people to extrapolate into the
They
real
are in a
world.
very different. We don't have a survivor count in our.
We don't have a survivor count, and as you find out in the next episode, actually potentially fostering is quick and easy.
Yes, it would appear.
But it's still, I get it from the point of view of the survivor count. I have to be honest, I don't think Rosalind makes the right decision.
No, and interestingly, that Mary McDonnell wasn't happy with a character making that decision. Which is an interesting one, isn't it? Because they're in such difficult circumstances.
They are in extremis, and I get
literally
that.
up against it. So,
but even in extremis, I still find this very, very difficult. I think what I'm saying is I don't judge Rosalind in this. I think she really was backed into a corner. So I'm not saying I don't think it makes her a bad person.
What I think her mistake in this is making it out like that's her decision. Because presumably, she does say, I need to get the quorum together at one point, and presumably this is the sort of decision ought to be a collective decision.
Actually, maybe even.
Obviously, you're not going to get the whole quorum agreeing because they're going to be the Geminis on one side and the more scientific-y type ones on the other.
Vote.
But then that gets it off her back.
No,
then.
you're right.
It's not all the fingers aren't pointed at her. If she says, okay, well, we had a vote and it went this way and that's what we're going to uphold. But instead, it's like, this is what I'm going to do because I'm the president, which is very United Statesian, isn't it? But,
but not right.
Yeah.
Not right. I mean, here in the UK, we know the fuck-ups that can be caused by a referendum, but potentially this is the sort of thing that should go to a referendum.
Yeah, you'd think, actually, yes.
So that's the abortion debate.
Yeah, that's the B plot.
That's the B plot.
Wow, that's just the B plot.
And then the A plot is the shit going down on the Pegasus.
Yes, because it's a healthy ship, is the Pegasus, isn't it? Great place to be, particularly if you're in command, because that always works out well, doesn't it?
It's like...
It's today's... Star Trek has red shirts. BSG has commanders of the Pegasus, basically.
Well, actually, you know what this reminds me of? I can't remember the name of the ship, but it's a Deep Space Nine episode, and it's full of fuckheads who are too young to know better.
Oh, God, the Red Squad ship.
Yeah! Was it the Valiant?
Could be, yeah. It was another Defiant class, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's what it reminds me of. It's the problem...
Well, except in this case, he's not young. You can't blame him.
No, they're not young. But Kane ran a toxic ship.
Yeah.
Right? What Adama should have done is... deliberately mixed crews ASAP.
Mm-hmm. But it's clear he hasn't. I mean,
but he hasn't
because Starbuck's fighting against it because she's apparently one of the few Galactica crew
they've got
there.
this whole Pegasus loyalty thing, which is caused by Kane. And yes, the commander cunt, whose name I can't remember, who's in charge. Was it Commander Gammon? But
No, it wasn't Gammon, but it looked a bit that way.
well, he's called that from now on.
No, Garner, but anyway.
Oh, Gammon. I'm calling him Gammon.
Interesting, in the flashback scene, originally it was another character placed in charge. I've got to note their name here. Trammell, it was going to be. And then there was some legal problem with... there apparently was a real-life Commander Trammell who was going to sue them or something if they used the name. So it got changed and ADR'd for the flashback scene to, Garner.
To Gammon, yeah. So...
And we can play Who Are You with Gammon,
We
can't
can!
we?
I recognise him from something!
Yeah. He was in Sharknado. Well,
I haven't seen
we
that.
won't hold that
I'm
against him.
Probably going to next week.
Oh, right, okay. That's good. You've got that lined up, have you? But where you're probably recognising him from is the Home Alone movies, because he's the dad, Kevin's dad.
Right, yes. Yes. I knew I'd seen him from something, and we have watched Home Alone comparatively recently.
Yeah,
so,
John Hurd, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, he's now Gammon, as far as I'm concerned. So basically, the problem you've got is that Starbuck is the CAG. Fair enough, that is one aspect of Adama trying to, mix the crews up. But he hasn't done it enough because she's facing this opposition of the whole sort of like, well, we don't tell you because you're not Pegasus crew shit.
Well, that comes from straight from the top as well. And Garner's quite... I mean, he says, I'm not cutting Starbuck any slack just because she's a good pilot, which... you can kind of sympathise with.
Yeah.
Bit of a, discipline might be quite
well,
good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Apollo says later on in the episode, or was it next episode? No, I think it's the next episode. You needed to kick up the arse.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she is walking into a toxic situation, and Adama should have done something about this much sooner. But
she wasn't the person to deal with it, was she?
No, she wasn't. So she only finds out that these Raptor pilots are missing when she's on the bridge with new Major Apollo and the Gammon. And Gammon makes out like it's her fault, but of course she hasn't been told. So then she goes, into the bogs! We've got the bogs!
Barbed wire bum, baby, be like me. We're gonna do the strain on the laboratory.
Got to have a toilet scene, haven't we?
Yeah, barbed wire bum, baby. And she has a go at them. And who is Cunty Twat? The one that just looks at her, and he's got really girly eyelashes. But anyway, he just looks at her and he doesn't say anything. He's like, I'm not saying anything, and I just want to lamp him.
I think his call sign's Red Bull or something like that. But I can't
yeah, fits.
Yeah.
Red Bull gives you wings. Fuck you, Red Bull. What? Twatty, cunty, shitface dude needs to die. And the thing is, Starbuck isn't lovely.
No.
Right? I get she comes with problems of her own, but his attitude stinks. And he needs to be slapped in the face with a wet fish. Very long story short, Apollo and Starbuck have a row. And a lot of it is about the fact that Starbuck shot Apollo. But mostly, even though he's a twat and I don't like him, actually Apollo is right. She needs to kick up the arse. They need to find out what's going on, and Apollo's like, I need to know personal shit about them so we can try and piece things together, because all we've got is this bit of a message. And Starbuck works out that maybe they received a distress call, and the Cylons have been laying traps of fake distress calls, and could it be a trap?
It's a trap!
It is a trap, indeed. But Gammon is like, I'm getting my men, I'm not,
Which, to be fair, is something that Adama has said in the past about Starbuck. I mean, he risked everything to get her, and originally Gammon would have taken him up on that and said, hang on a minute, you did it for Starbuck. So, so again, he's not great, but he's not completely off the mark. He's certainly just following in Adama's footsteps, let's face it.
Apollo is like, you've got to take this to the Admiral, so they do. And then there's the whole test of loyalty thing where Adama is like, okay, well, we know they've laid traps before. What does Apollo think? And Gammon looks at him like, you've got to back me, because that's a very Pegasus thing. And Apollo's like, yeah, I think it's a trap, so does Starbuck, just so you know. And he gets glared at, and then the next thing you know, it's like, take him off the bridge, and it's just like, I've seen this all before, fuck off. And yeah, it is a trap. And there is a battle. The battle looks cool. There's not much I can say about the battle, but it looks cool. And it all goes tits up. And then the Gammon realises that, his fuck off massive chip on his shoulder is all to do with the fact that he come up through engineering rather than command. And where he needs to be is engineering. So basically, he isn't a bad dude. He's just promoted above his ability.
Well,
and what he needs is to be an engineer.
How often do we see that?
Oh,
particularly in politics. But anyway,
anywhere you see it. But anyway, what he needs, because he is a fantastic engineer.
Yeah.
And what he should be is whatever Galactica's equivalent is of a captain of engineering. That's what he should be. because, you know, that is his skill set. And he's not a bad person. He sacrifices his life for the ship.
But as Apollo says at the end, he just doesn't. He can't work. He can work machines. He can't work people.
Again, promoted above his ability. And I wonder whether the reason that happened was the whole toxic loyalty culture on the Pegasus. In other words, is that Kane's fault? Him being taken out of engineering and into command?
He was taken out of engineering by Adama.
Oh, okay. He's just promoted above his ability, but he recognises his mistake, because having been arrest Apollo, he's like, no, you got the con.
Yeah,
I'm going down to engineering. So,
moment, yeah.
And it's.
I mean, that's after we had the Crimson Tide moment where Apollo tries to take command, but unlike Crimson Tide, he doesn't succeed.
No. Which again fits with the Pegasus, because Apollo is not Pegasus.
Yeah, they're all going to side with their own, aren't they?
That needs dealing with. But he's not a bad person. He's just promoted above his ability. Give him his due. He recognises where he needs to be and who needs to be in charge in his stead, and he deals with it. So it's a shame that he dies, because as a character he could have learnt from that.
Yeah, but he's in charge of the Pegasus. They all have to die.
Yeah,
it's the rule.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of the Pegasus now?
Well, that's the thing. Because this is where I come to the whole nepotism thing. Because Apollo is placed in command. Initially, he freezes.
And promoted to commander as well. I mean, blimey, he's just shooting up the ranks. By the end of the season, he's going to be fleet admiral, let's face it.
But initially, he freezes. And then his training kicks in, and he does take command of the situation. And it works. And the thing is, I do understand why Adama... I don't think it was right that Adama promoted Apollo to major. But given that Apollo is a major, and therefore among the senior ranks, it does make sense for Adama to then put him in charge of the Pegasus, just because which other senior people could he choose? Other people from the Pegasus, we know that won't work. We know the Pegasus is toxic, and they have to have somebody not Pegasus in command. So the only other person with an equivalent rank is Pisshead Ty. So if your choices are Pisshead Ty and Apollo, actually, though I think it was absolutely nepotism that got Apollo promoted to major, I don't think it's nepotism that gets Apollo promoted to commander, because he was one of only two choices in terms of seniority of rank, and Apollo is better than Ty. That's my that's my view. Apollo never would have been in consideration if he hadn't already been promoted to major. But that having happened, that wrong choice having happened, you've got Apollo or Ty, and we know what happens when you put Ty in command. Just all shit shower. Just no. So, that's. I'm not saying it's completely right, but I think that Adama actually doesn't have an awful lot of choice in terms of who commands.
What about the dude who was in charge of the flight deck?
The question is whether he has enough seniority of
rank.
rank.
I think he's a captain, if I remember rightly, so possibly not.
So he might not do.
Yeah.
I mean, also, let's be honest, at this point...
That's going to bug me now, that guy is.
No, I do know who you mean, but what's the other possibility that would have been even worse? Fucking Starbuck.
Well, yeah. Captain Kelly, there you are.
Yeah.
The LSO.
But yeah, he's not got enough seniority.
He hasn't, but what should have happened was, at the beginning of the episodes, promote Captain Kelly, send him over to the...
And then he would have been a major, and then he would have been in the running. That is absolutely what should have happened. But given the circumstances that Adama finds himself in at the end of the episode, I don't think it's nepotism that gets him making Adama the commander at the end of the episode. Nepotism absolutely is at play in the earlier stage, but I don't think it's at play at the end.
I love the line towards the end, Apollo says to Starbuck, "You have a brain?" It's like... Yeah, apparently that was an ad-lib, so well done Jamie Bamber for that one.
But I love that, because she's like, "Are we okay?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You have a brain?" It's like, brilliant.
Yeah.
Love that. That was good. I did appreciate that. And also, I like the whole sort of, "Poor Lee, your life is so hard, isn't it?" Because he has been such a fucking mopey twat. You know? She's calling him out on his mopiness. I like that. So yeah, there's lots of good dialogue in this.
Yep.
There's lots of good to and fro. There's some brilliant space battles that look good on a nice
And it
shiny new
really
telly.
benefits from having an A plot and a B plot as
Yeah,
well. I mean,
it
so many of the
really
episodes this
does.
season have suffered somewhat because they've only been the one plot, and it hasn't quite sustained the entire episode. Whereas this one, you know, it works a lot better having the two. I mean, an entire episode around abortion would have been pretty grueling and depressing, to be honest. Whereas as a B plot, it's about the right length, and it's a good thing to be addressing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take over the entire episode.
And also, it's addressing it in a novel way, because the whole thing is about they are in extremis,
Yeah.
and our survival as a species is at stake.
Also, we get that cool thing with Starbuck landing a ship upside down.
I know, what is that?
Because Pegasus has, if you look at the Pegasus design, it's got twin landing bays either side. So there's a top one and there's a bottom one, and she went in the bottom one, and you know, obviously there's no gravity, so it's presumably magnetic or something. I don't know, but
Presume so.
yeah. But I mean, obviously all they did was flip the screen. But yeah, it was like, ooh, that's a cool moment.
That sort of thing would make me feel sick. I couldn't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking to someone, okay? You know how some places they get glass or perspex stairs? Yeah, so the stairs are completely see-through. I can't walk up them without freaking that I'm going to fall down.
Also, I love Boltar's shit-eating grin at the end when he's basically stabbed Rosalind in the back.
Yeah, manipulative cunt. I mean, yeah,
Wow.
but I like the grin. I also really like that Six's so slow clap.
Yes. Yeah, she's not in this much, but it's good to have her back. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So all in all, I thought this was a really good episode.
Very good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Doreen has this to say. This had a lot in it. Yeah, not wrong.
No shit, Sherlock.
But I was not impressed with the family planning storyline. The stuff about the Pegasus was far more interesting, if annoying. Oh, and Boltar is going to run for the presidency. Is this a good thing? Well, I guess the race will be interesting at least. Oh, yes. Sampo and Yona we've also heard from.
Okay, and they say there is a clear upswing in quality this week. You are not wrong.
Yeah.
Starting with this episode, while it still feels a bit filler-ish, by the end it has lasting impact. So the captain of the Pegasus this week is someone named Garner. Although he was mentioned in the previously on scene, we're pretty sure we didn't actually hear about him before.
No, it was a different name.
Yeah,
That's why.
they've overdubbed. Yeah. Taking into account how previous captains have fared, it's not difficult to guess his fate.
Exactly, yeah.
No, you're not wrong. Starbuck is getting into a lot of trouble on the Pegasus. This shows that the only reason Starbuck has held a position on the Galactica is that the Adamas have a soft spot for her. Or the show is hampered at this point by how extreme Garner is with her. Telling the pilots to withhold information from her and dismissing an idea because it came from her is stupid.
Yes, it
Not
is.
unrealistic, but stupid. Again, that's part of the toxic culture of the Pegasus that Kane has created. The upside to this is we get to see the Pegasus pound some Cylons. The battle's short and quite intensive, and we see that now Cylons actually retreat when badly damaged because they ain't got their resurrection ship, so, you know. This is in keeping with them losing the resurrection ship. Last season they were willing to blow up battle stars for just shits and giggles. And you do have to appreciate Garner going back to engineering to do what he does best and ultimately saving the ship. As Captain of the Week, he was not a bad character. As a final act of nepotism, Adama appoints Lee as captain of the Pegasus. Not sure that was the best call he could have made. We discussed this. I think the nepotism is earlier on, and that actually at this point he doesn't have many options. The B plot concerns Rosalind deciding between her morals and the survival of the human race, and it's really great stuff all around. There is no right solution to the situation. Yeah, we can all have our opinions, but it's a call that none of us have ever had to grapple with, is it?
Yeah, I know, it's a nasty one, yeah.
Nasty. And the religious leader is really a great antagonist. No, that's true, she is, because she's not nasty, she's pushy, if that makes sense.
She is, yeah.
And we've seen her before, she's got backstory, which I like. It's not a random person, is it? It's someone with heft, to use a Commodian word. The situation where after Rosalind made abortions illegal and she still came demanding for more, all high and mighty, I really wanted to go through the screen and strangle her. You and me both. And the cherry on top is Boltar's betrayal at the end. It's great stuff and allows Boltar to do something not goofy and impactful for a change. This was a great episode and it feels like the season is back on track. Absolutely. Love this.
And Jeff has this to say. I had a distinct but flawed memory of this episode from the original broadcast, as I recalled only the abortion controversy subplot. I was very impressed at the time that they were tackling such a divisive real-world issue directly and not couched in sci-fi metaphor. It was interesting to see that it ended up being a rather small part of the overall episode, and mostly served as a linchpin for political manoeuvring. Rosalind's decision, prompted by the civil libertarian Admiral Adama of all people, seems in genuine good faith, prompted by the dire situation, though there is the suggestion that it's an attempt to pander to the zealous Geminon faction. All this served to set up Boltar's political masterstroke, ambushing everyone by announcing his candidacy during the announcement of the new restrictions.
Oh, yeah.
His speech is brilliantly written, and like his new buddy Tom Zarek, he makes many good points for the wrong reasons. I'm surprised I forgot all about the other main thread of this episode, especially as it involves some good spaceship action. John Hurd is one of those character actors who has been in everything, and was excellent here as the out-of-his-depth Commander Garner. Starbuck's assessment of him as incompetent and paranoid was spot on.
Yeah.
And his inferiority complex regarding his engineering background certainly didn't help matters. I appreciated that despite his flaws, he was able to make the right decision at the end, turning over command to Apollo, and even heroically giving his life to save the ship from the terrible decision that he made.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lee, he actually seemed quite bearable to me in this episode. Yeah, he's not bad, actually, yeah. That may be because Kara is taking up the moodily sulky slack. The moodily sulky slack, there's a phrase. It probably doesn't help now that she can never win an argument with Apollo. He has the ultimate "you shot me" trump card. Yeah, it's a conversation killer, really, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, no, that's all true.
Yep.
All good stuff. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you. Who have we heard from on net MP3s?
Well, as ever, we start with Perry.
Hello, Orgs. Perry here to talk about The Captain's Hand. Now, this is kind of an interesting... Obviously, we're setting things up. This episode's got a number of threads running through it, so possibly... It's hard to call any of them the main one. The main one is, I suppose, Lee and his atomic rise to power. Since when is he a major? Did he get made major when he was put in charge as XO? Or has he been made a major before and I just missed it? Either way, don't get used to it, because he is now a commander, and indeed commander of the Pegasus, which we now know is called the Beast by the crew, with the Galactica being called the Bucket. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, how's he got his job, I wonder? Both Battlestars commanded by an Adama. But yeah, and of course the thing is that Starbuck's gone over there to help their flight crews, but the commander's an engineer who's kind of promoted out with his skill set. Not really a people manager, and as a result, he accidentally flies the ship into a trap, nearly loses it, but sacrifices a life heroically, turning some valves in an engine room. Pegasus doesn't seem to be able to hold on to commanding officers for long, so I'm wondering if Lee wants the job. What happened to the last few commanding officers? Well, let's see, shot, then strangled, and then killed in the vacuum of space. It's not exactly a job which people should be queuing up for. The other plots here are the idea of Cottle's been doing kind of abortions, because particularly with the Geminoms being very religious, and they find it an abomination. Indeed, the child actually, as we find out, is partly the parents' property, which is kind of but basically Rosalind's obviously leading because she's got a high, I mean, again, we've got this whole thing, we've got new Billy, I believe it's Rekha Sharma playing her, who played Landry in Discovery, but yeah, I do wonder how much of her stuff was just written for Billy, but I don't know, she is coming across as a bit more of a professional press person. Billy always seemed a wee bit rabbit in the headlights in this, whereas she seems to know what she's doing. But yeah, Rosalind kind of having to delegalize abortion, and indeed you do wonder. I mean, Baltar's kind of playing a bit of a sneaky role here, because he basically says, regardless, we're going to be extinct if we don't start having babies. And indeed, all this thing of, even Adama says, oh, we probably shouldn't be. But again, Rosalind's been very much, quite rightly, on a woman's right to choose. And indeed, just because you've got a low population does not mean you should suddenly turn all your women into baby factories. If that's the case, then technically you shouldn't have female Viper pilots, or anyone female in a position of danger. But there we go. But and I did quite like her bit at the end when she leaned into the Geminon ambassador and just said, "You've got your win. I suggest you take it," because she's had to kind of do this for the betterment of the crew. One of the weird things, actually, the girl who came over and was found in the container, Adama comes up and says, "Hi, I'm Commander Adama." Would she not know? You've got to get the thought that she'd recognise him. He's probably one of the most recognisable people in the fleet. But yes, we also got a presidential campaign running in Baltar. I quite liked Tom Zarek talking Baltar. Zarek basically saying, "I can't win this, but you could, and you might look kindly on me after." So we've got some things building up, and like I say, I think we're moving pieces in place more than anything. We did get some quite neat space battles. We did get some, the Pegasus kind of surrounded by explosions, which was quite fun. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's never going to be. I don't think this one's a standout. But it's got some really interesting stuff. So I think it's one that's a bit worth your time. So I'll be back shortly to talk about Downloaded. But until then, bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the whole sort of she's the property of her parents. It kind of It's worse than kind of It's bad, really bad. But it's one of those things that it's kind of a throwaway line. It would be easy to miss that she's the property of her parents, but it's scary, really scary. But I guess it kind of fits because historically, the whole reason why we have as part of our culture the father giving away the bride was the concept that daughters were property.
Yeah.
So they haven't made that up out of nowhere.
No, it's a thing. Yeah, Apollo was made major right at the start of the episode. He gets handed the new pips. That's right, he shows them to Dee, doesn't he? So that's just happened at the beginning of the episode, yeah.
And that's really dodgy nepotism.
Yeah. And we won't hear the beast in the bucket again. That was just for this episode, which seems a bit redundant.
That's a shame, I like the idea.
Well, I don't know about the bucket, though. That's a bit wank, isn't it? But apparently it was because Ron Moore didn't like Peggy as a nickname for the Pegasus, which is just a natural name, but he thought it sounded too cute. But to be honest, it works a lot better, and in future the series will stick to Peggy rather than Beast. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think Tori's quite different to Billy from the get-go, really. And in
is.
fact, Adama
she
kind
seems
of
a lot more professional.
Adama kind of makes the point, doesn't he? He's like, she's no Billy, is she? And it's like, yeah, she's like, oh, go and get them type person. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more professional, a lot more assertive than Billy ever was, but presumably as a consequence, a lot less of a support. Just in terms of the way the characters are portrayed, I think it's a deliberate difference because Billy did his best to support, didn't he? Yeah. What did Drew and Tracy make of this?
Hello, this is feedback for The Captain's Hand.
And what do we think of that one then?
Yeah, it's not too bad actually.
That's quite an adventure-filled one.
Yep.
Quite enjoyed that. Good
no
to see
complaints.
the Pegasus again.
Yes, I know. We were
After
saying
quite
it
a long
last
time.
time.
Yeah.
It was.
And it's good to see, is it Mr. Hockey?
Mr.
Hoshi?
Yeah, Hoshi, I think he's called,
He's looking like Dumb and Dumber. He looks like
Jim Carrey straight out of Dumb and Dumber. Yeah, I know. He really did look
that
like him.
That haircut was horrendous. Oh my god. So Lee Adama goes from captain to major to commander.
I know, in one episode.
Fucking episode.
I know.
I always think as well, like, so Adama, like Captain Admiral Adama, has promoted Lee a couple of times now behind closed doors. Surely, to be open and fair, he should have somebody else in the room to kind of say,
he might
this
be,
is what I'm going to do. You know, you wouldn't
so
kind of do that in like...
He might be making the decisions like with people.
Yeah, but you don't see that.
But then, like,
you only see him giving him his pips or whatever it's called, you know, in the closed confines of his office.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure that's right. Starbuck, again, is fucking winding me up.
He does use that every time
I
now.
know, but I don't understand how she can be so fucking rude to a major and a commander and get away with it. You know, captain of the commander of the Pegasus, can't think what his name is now, Barry Blumblum, whatever.
I can't remember now either.
He should have thumped her solid the way that she fucking spoke to him.
I guess so.
Absolutely disgusting. Oh, and we knew that the raptors were going to fucking fly into a trap, didn't we?
Yeah,
it
well
was clearly obvious.
signposted.
And how do you get to be commander and not realise what's happening and not take advice from your flipping...
I know this.
You know, your crew.
This is one thing that I had noted down, and that is that a lot of this episode that's wrong is Adama putting the wrong person in charge. But then, right at the end, before he promoted Lee, he did say, "Oh, the fault lies with me," kind of
it
thing.
was my
And yes,
fault.
it does. I mean, why did he put that guy in charge? That's the problem here, isn't it? The wrong person in charge.
It is, but he's not been in charge for like 5 minutes, has he? And you don't get to commander without having some kind of like background to be able to know what the fuck you're doing.
He's the wrong person to put in charge, and that's what caused all of the trouble, isn't it?
Paid for it in the end, though, didn't he?
He did, yes. Talking of which, though, why is getting the FTL drive back to working involved turning a load of tap things with a big spanner?
Because it's the drama. Yeah, we're never used to
Why?
Well, you've never seen that before.
Why
have you?
would it possibly... Like, it's obviously FTL drive is like involves like physics and science.
Yeah.
And they got to turn big taps to get it to work. It doesn't make any sense,
And
does
you're
it?
not telling me they haven't got any portable oxygen equipment
Well,
that
yeah.
they could have worn, or he could have worn when he had to go into that tunnel, and also that the crew could have worn to fucking go in and rescue him.
It's just a
bit
total
daft.
setup, isn't it? The fact that it's somewhere where, it's there's a leak and he's got to go in. It's a bit disappointing.
Yeah. So they were playing their moral compass today with this one, with the
it is like Republicans all over again. Yep.
And what's her chops? The prayers. She was in a bit of a difficult situation, wasn't she?
Yep.
Because obviously, she believes in human rights, but also she has what Adama reminded her of what she did stand for at the beginning. That they have to
Increase the population.
Yeah, they've got to produce. So
bit of a sticky one.
yeah, it is a sticky one. It is a sticky one, but that Republican.
Geminis.
Yeah.
The Geminis are the Republicans,
I
aren't
was
they?
just like, oh, fuck off. You're getting on my tits now.
Yep.
And then I got one more thing to say, and that is, Boltar, you're a cock.
He's moved straight. He's moved right on to being the baddie now.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's just a fucking cock now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
enjoyed
mind
it.
this. It was alright.
It was a good
Nothing
episode.
wrong with that episode. It was good.
Good episode. Lee just needs to move away from D.
Well, he's going to know he's on
but he's
Pegasus
just
unless
way
he takes
too
her
good for
over.
her. Anyway, leave it there.
Okay.
Have the next one.
Yep.
All right then. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. So we got President What's Her Chops and Commander Barry Blumblum. We really should be getting Trace to do the episode synopsis. I can't help it.
Oh dear.
Now the whole thing with the big dials, rather than it being sort of computery tech, was specifically Ron Moore trying to distance the series from Trek. So rather than Scotty, pushing a load of buttons to solve the problem, you've actually got somebody with literally a hammer and a wrench solving the problem instead.
Very
so.
Nicholas Meyer and fire extinguishers.
It's more Nicholas Meyer than it is Gene
Yeah.
Roddenberry, isn't it? Let's face
the
it.
idea was it was to do with coolant.
Yes, so there's
it's
some.
not directly the FTL drive.
Yeah, it's not like the software or anything he's hammering, but there was a problem with the coolant supply and he had to turn some taps to replace it apparently. But yeah, it's all very dramatic, isn't it?
It is, and very, and I think this was deliberate, very submarine-y,
Yes.
which I like. It made me think of things like Das Boot.
Yeah. But Tracy's quite right. Promotions ought to be far more public.
Yes, they should.
Not just the decision of who to promote, but also actually you feel like people are just handed their rank badges and then start wandering around with them on their collars, like, oh, by the way, I've been promoted. Look, you'd expect there to be a big thing, a ceremony or something. So yeah, it's very odd.
Yes, it is. I guess maybe there's a difference with the Battlefield Commission. But even when, in Star Trek, when there is a Battlefield Commission, there's still some kind of announcing.
Yes, they get on the bridge, everybody goes, right, okay, pay attention please, and so is now a commander instead of a lieutenant or whatever.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you! Who else we heard from?
Next is the Llama Gods.
This is a British song, getting fixing that revolving door on the Pegasus. things. Now, this is something of a return to form, isn't it? Right from the start, this looks like it could be troublesome when we see that Lee and Dee haven't actually been put back by the events of the previous episode. They've actually ended up and gotten together, and it feels for a moment like this is going to be a Lee-centric episode, but it's not. They've remembered they can do 2 plots at a time, and I think that's really what saves this episode, because we've got development for Lee's character, and we've also got an ongoing meaty plot, and what a meaty plot that one is. Now, this is back to Galactica and science fiction really being at its best, imposing the big questions, and really here not giving us any definitive answers, because, I mean, I like to think of myself as quite a liberal person. I'm definitely pro-choice and pro a woman's right to choose and everything, and from that point of view, I certainly would never ever support anyone who would force a woman to carry a pregnancy that they didn't want. But the interesting question here is, what would I do if I was in a similar situation to the situation that Rosalind finds herself in? And it's a choice between the needs of the many or the needs of the few, really, to go back to that whole old chestnut. And honestly, I don't know, because, I mean, to reuse another phrase from Star Trek, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. I mean, it's not exactly paradise we're living in at the moment, but still, we have options here. In a situation like the Colonials find themselves in, I don't know how strongly I'd be able to stick to my convictions or whether they would indeed change. So, yeah, it's nicely done, the dilemma in this episode. It was good to see that Rosalind took her time, at least, thinking about it. She's seemed a bit bloodthirsty since she came back from the dead. Well, or she was on her way to the dead, actually. It's good to see that she actually thinks about this logically. It is unsettling to see how quickly Adama goes towards the removal of people's individual freedoms. I mean, yes, these are exceptional circumstances the Colonials find themselves in, but nevertheless, it's a little bit unsettling. The last couple of weeks, we've definitely seen both Rosalind and Adama become slightly less warm characters and slightly not quite the heroes or protagonists that we thought them to be, and this continues here. Of course, what I think we can all say is definitively not right is the manipulation of the situation for personal gain, and that's exactly what Baltar does here, and that's particularly unlikable, unforgivable even. He provides Rosalind with the necessary data to make what could potentially be the right decision for the future of humanity, and then uses that to capitalise on unrest in the fleet for his own personal gain, and that's really the despicable thing here, because really, he doesn't care about the rights of the individual or the future of humanity. He's caring only about himself first and foremost, and I think whatever side of the argument you're on, he is most certainly on the wrong one. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the fleet react to this and whether this will actually help his political campaign. But from a purely televisual drama point of view, though, it is good to see him stepping up and becoming a bit more of an antagonistic character, and to see him sort of moving into the troublesome role that his namesake and original series provided. So yeah, whether that's made me like him or not, it's not the point. He's actually turning into quite an interesting character, so yeah, I like that side of things. And what could possibly be the least interesting side of things, we find that Lee has been promoted to a major. That's a recognition of him being a major pain in the ass, I guess. Not entirely sure why. I'm sure nepotism's not a play here, but he's got the promotion, and by the end of the episode, he ends up in charge of the Pegasus. Now, I had remembered that this happened, and I think in my mind, I think I'd conflated Fisk with the temporary commander that dies in this one. I forgot there was one in between, that they weren't booked the same character. So yeah, because I remembered this one going out in engineering. It's yet another case of people being promoted above their station, but the fleet not having much of a choice to do in terms of practicalities, and in terms of the commander's actions, you can't really fault him. He was doing what he did and knew how to do best, but he wasn't a military person, so he made the wrong call. But ultimately, they came from a good place, and in a way, it kind of parallels the storyline happening within the rest of the fleet, because he was there trying to save lives. He walks into a trap, even with the knowledge that it could well be a trap, he wants to go and save lives, and he does it as best as he knows how to. And if nothing else, maybe that's to be applauded. He's not another useless commander. Yes, the consequences of action result in more dying, perhaps, and could have done that, and perhaps more needlessly, but he wasn't just an engineer, he was someone who worried about lives. And that's the overarching theme that runs through this episode, is what's important as an individual life versus the collective, and it shows you the different, sometimes harsh decisions that have to be made in these situations, and that's what makes it such a strong episode. The big question coming out of the episode by the end, of course, is will Lee now also fall foul of the revolving door that seems to be installed on the Pegasus Bridge? I guess only time will tell. The other nice scene in the episode was the discussion between Baltar and Zarek, with Zarek realising that he can actually no longer stand against Rosalind in the elections, and he's come to realise that he has to throw his support behind someone who actually has a chance. The big question is, how much more dangerous does that actually make Zarek? So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where these machinations lead. So definitely a much stronger episode than the previous few, and yeah, as I said at the start, definitely benefited from not focusing solely on Lee. So yeah, let's see if they continue standard into the next one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with most of that, yeah.
Yeah, it does definitely help having two plots.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think this is one of the areas where some of the other episodes this season have failed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It makes it... Both plots are good, but neither of them would really work on their own.
No. And yes, you do get the thing like Lee is doomed now because he's in charge of the Pegasus, which is like, the worst job in the world.
The thing is, though, I'm kind of not sorry.
No.
Have we heard from Andrew?
Yes, we have, and he has this to say.
So I have to start today's proceedings with a little bit of an apology. I have to start with a little bit of a mea culpa. Couple of episodes ago, in feedback for Epiphanies, I inadvertently gave away a little bit of a spoiler, and it was a spoiler for this episode. Epiphanies, you'll remember, is all about President Rosling ordering the termination of Sharon's baby, and in feedback to that episode, I said that Dr. Cottle had performed terminations before, and the reason I said that is I had watched this episode and got confused about the timeline. So sorry about that. Anyway, here we are with the Captain's Hand, wherein President Roslin outlaws abortion, leaving aside for a moment the question of how policing and the criminal justice system in the fleet even works. The priorities in that banning of abortion are kind of worth examining. And I think one way of doing it is to look at the issue from the opposite perspective. Instead of the state, I guess being Laura Roslin, banning abortion, what if the fleet just decided they didn't want to have babies? What if everyone in the fleet just decided they didn't want to have kids? Effectively making this generation of human beings the last generation of human beings from the 12 colonies. What would the state's position on that be? Because the principle that Roslin seems to be going by is we need to keep the human race going. And if that's a consistent stance, then if everybody in the fleet decided they weren't going to have any more children, just in their own minds they just thought, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to have babies. If the position of the state is the human race has to continue, the number on the whiteboard has to go up, and we're going to use laws that override individual freedoms to make that happen, then there are some potentially worrying implications there, which I leave as an exercise for the listener to entertain in their own minds. All of which is really a way of asking, does a society serve individual people, or do individual people serve society? Once you have a society, are the people that make up that society basically a resource to keep that society going, or does that society exist to help individual people flourish? And in that flourishing, the society is enabled and continues. You may have your own answers to that question. It feels like Laura Roslin in this episode is falling with the former of those two answers that I just gave. You may have your own point of view on that, of course. But all that said, let's move away from one leader to another leader, the very brief tenured commander of Pegasus, Captain Garner, paranoid and incompetent as Starbuck calls him. They set out his grievance very early on, that he's an engineer and he doesn't feel that engineers have been given quite as much respect as they deserve. If you were feeling uncharitable, you might say of Commander Garner that when he leaves CIC at the end, he is basically just bailing out. He realizes he's messed up, he doesn't know how to fix it, so he's noping out of there and letting someone else deal with it, running away from the situation. If you were feeling charitable, on the other hand, towards him, you might say that he realizes in that moment that he isn't cut out for the commandership that he has, and that his talents and aptitudes are actually best utilized down in the engine room and not on the CIC. And he relinquishes command to someone to whom command may come more easily, in the form of Lee Adama. There's probably a bit of both there, running away from command and running towards being an engineer. So yeah, by the end of the episode we have two Adamas in command of the fleet's battle stars. So they've got the beginnings of an aristocracy almost, given how fragmented the fleet has become by this point, politically and ideologically. I'm sure there are people in the fleet who could very well come to that position. Two Adamas in charge of two battle stars. That's a lot of power that's concentrated in one family. We know that the Adamas are very often not on the same page, but you can imagine there are people in the fleet who won't get any further than just the two commanders have the same name and be consternated by that. And of course, Lee Adama's recovery after being shot isn't important to the plot, so they just have a neat little time jump to get us over that. So that's my feedback on The Captain's Hand. I shall return imminently with feedback on Downloaded. So until then, bye.
Bye. In terms of if the entire fleet decided not to have children, what would the state's position be?
Interesting.
All those things like that. What if the state is good then you're looking at a non-zero sum game. If the state is good, both the state and the individual benefit, ultimately. There might be discrepancies or things that you have to arbitrate at an individual level, but ultimately both benefit if the state is good. So the question is, on this particular issue, is the state good? And I would argue that given that they're talking about the survival of the species, I would argue the state is good. What you want ideally is a situation where you are looking at why someone doesn't want to continue a pregnancy. So you're not looking at black and whites. You are looking at specifics. You're looking at case law. You're looking at specific situations. And you are not going to come to the same conclusion in every situation. So you don't have an absolute blanket law. You can have a law that says in most cases X, but there are exceptions and these are Y. But you are looking very much at case law if the state is good. Now, Rosalind wants the state to be good. Adama wants the state to be good. But in a situation in extremis like this, the chances of the state actually being good, in all honesty, are pretty small, because the circumstances are extreme and they're more likely to produce a bad and totalitarian state.
Also, I think the sort of ethical issue he was drawing on there is reliant on the idea that people will be choosing not to have children.
And a lot of people will choose to have children.
Exactly. I mean, it's a natural drive. I mean, not everybody wants to, and that, we know that, but it is a
lot of people do.
Exactly. So, and it's then, what do we do about? So
you're looking at that in and of itself is extremely serious. Now, arguably, more people might say our living circumstances are such we don't want to bring into a child into the world. I think you are dealing with.
To say nothing of the fact that, I mean, I don't know, we don't know enough about the background of the young woman, but, presumably contraceptives aren't exactly, easy to come by in the fleet, particularly not in the particular religious environment that she's growing up in.
But also, I think you're looking at a poverty issue, because we know that resources are scarce. You've got the water episode and all the rest of it. So there are all sorts of factors at play that I do think make it more likely that people are going to say no to children. Yeah. And I think that's right. But I think the idea that everyone says no to children
is unlikely.
Because there will be some people who either just feel as an individual very strongly they want to have them, or that you're going to have the Genoese, who almost certainly are what in our culture would think of as quiverful, which is the more children the better, more quivers to your arrow. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have that aspect of particularly their culture, but you'll find it elsewhere, counterbalancing those that say no. So I think you're probably going to see a decline in birth rate. I think that would be normal in circumstances that they're facing, but I don't think you're going to see absolute zero.
Yeah, not very likely.
No.
Anyway, I hadn't picked up that you'd slightly spoilerised the fact that Cottle was conducting abortions, because it's not a major thing really. So
no,
don't lose any sleep over that.
Don't worry about it. Honestly, I wouldn't.
And I think that Gammon kind of, that he hadn't realised what his gifts were.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of, rather than bailing, he's like, actually, you're the best.
I'm in the wrong place.
You're in the best place here. I'm going to go down to engineering and do actually what I do best.
And I think that's the point where he redeemed himself.
Yeah,
to be honest, that's my own opinion anyway.
But there you go. Wow, interesting spectrum of opinions.
Yeah.
Because I think this is an episode that's got so much packed into it, thanks to its two plots, that even if the abortion business doesn't spark off on you, the other plot will.
Yeah.
So it really feels like we've been given a What's the word?
A smorgasbord?
A smorgasbord. Have you ever things to discuss? Oh, what a wonderful phrase. Yes.
Yes.
Well, will Downloaded provide similarly? Let's find out.
Where? I was in a house.
But you're not in a house any longer. You're back with us. You've been reborn.
I died. I died.
That's right. You were in a house. It was destroyed. A nuclear blast. But that is all over now. You have been downloaded into a new body.
So this was written as a silent-centered story. About time.
Yeah, I love it though.
Yeah, they'd already tried once apparently with a story called The Raid, but they couldn't get that to work in the writing, so they started again with this. We have an awful lot of previously on.
Yeah.
Leading up to Six waking up in a bath of slime, having been nuked back on Caprica. She's greeted by Deanna, who's number 3 for those who are keeping track. She asks about Gaius, and he appears to her, warning Six not to tell them how she feels about him, which is a lovely move.
I love it.
Giving her a bolt on her shoulder in the same way she haunts him on the Galactica.
Yeah.
Apparently the music playing whenever he appears to him is the Sixth theme in reverse, which you can just about tell if you concentrate, to be honest, but it's much the same.
Yeah.
And the idea is this is Caprica's idealised version of Boltar, hence he's less slimy and weird and more confident and sure himself, just as Six is Boltar's idealised version of her.
Yeah.
Then we flash forward to Boomer getting shot and waking up in the pool as well. Lots of flashbacks, but justified, I guess, and it all works very nicely. I love the birthing pool thing.
I love it.
The fact you can't see anything in the background doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's like, this is a cool prop.
And I like the fact that it looks a bit alien-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The edges look alien-ish.
Back in the present on Caprica, we see Centurions planting trees. Clearly the radiation's passed on or something.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how that works, but anyway. Deanna is telling Six to leave the past behind. Not easy when Boltar is set next to her, mocking the way that Deanna's sitting.
I love it.
Well, his commentary more addresses the fact that we don't see all 12 Cylon models in this story. And there's no in-universe explanation. They just wanted to keep the viewers in suspense, basically. So, yeah. I leave Simon out for the most part, you'll notice. Not worth getting the actor in for a non-speaking role after all, so we just get a couple of body doubles.
Yeah.
On the fleet, Boomer is having to have an emergency berth with Cottle in disbelief that the Cylons hadn't improved the plumbing.
I love that.
Just download the baby. We have the return of paramedic Lane Ishay, who was introduced back in Scattered, so that's quite a nice continuity bit. Originally, a number 3 would have kidnapped the child and then taken it to Gina, that number 6, but there wasn't room for that plot in the midst of all this, and you didn't need it really, so that's fine. Deanna compliments Caprica, as this 6 is now being referred to, on her seduction abilities. Number 3 tells her that they need help, as Sharon's been having trouble reintegrating and may need to be boxed, which is a chilling phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're being watched by Anders and a red-headed woman. This is Jean Barole, because all redheads have to be called Jean, apparently, who's played by Alison Down, who was a psychiatrist looking after Spock in Discovery Season 2. So it's all the Discovery references this time. Although she had short dark hair in that, so she wasn't particularly recognisable. Jean refers to the Centurions as bullet heads, which is a nice phrase. Yeah. Caprica goes to visit Sharon, who's living in her old flat, still dressing in her fleet clothes. Start with the elephants, Boltar tells her, which is nicely random.
Yep.
Sharon describes herself as being a lying machine, which is not quite James Brown, but not far off. And it's a great performance by Grace Parks.
It is.
She completely loses her frack, and she throws her picture of the Galactica crew at the wall. And then Caprica scratches her face to pretend that she got injured by it, which, as Baltar points out, is cunning. Apparently, 6s are usually hardcore and don't show fear. So that rather ask the question, are all the models alike, except for the ones who've been affected by their mission? According to Moore, all the copies of the same number do generally share the same character traits, but to different degrees, thanks to their different experiences. So there's a whole nature-nurture thing going on here. Boltar feeds Caprica lines in the way that 6 did for Gaius when talking to Adama about the Cylon detector, which is a nice touch. Jean is using a cigarette as a fuse to set off a bomb, assisted by a dude named Hillard, who's played by Diego Diablo Del Mar, which is a hell of a name. Apparently he was in the Catwoman movie. Oh dear.
Okay.
Yeah, Siggy fuses for homemade bombs apparently are a thing in real life as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it was a purposeful choice to make us wonder about the meaning of being a terrorist.
Yeah.
Because we've got the good guys here effectively targeting civilians in a cafe. Caprica is trying to tell Sharon that she's moved on from Baltar whilst being literally haunted by his presence. At one point she reaches for a glass that he offers her, but of course it isn't there.
Yeah, I like that.
We get the inverse of those funny guys scenes where he'd be dragging himself around by his tie. Sharon tells Caprica that Baltar's alive! Which comes as a shock. The real thing is currently meeting with Rosalind, which seems a bit odd considering the bomb he dropped at the end of the last episode.
No, but he's still the vice president.
He is still the vice president, but even so, I would have thought she'd have cut him out. But anyway.
No, she can't.
Well, maybe not. Anyway, she tells them that if she wanted to toss the baby out of an airlock, she would. And we believe her.
Yeah.
He points out the baby's half human, so they should keep that half in mind, which is a nice line.
Yeah.
Six is concerned they're going to take their child, so she's still being weird about that, because it's clearly not their child.
Oh, I know.
Sharon has christened the baby Hera, following their predisposition for names from Greek mythology. Halo is hopelessly in love with his daughter already, which, let's face it, isn't going to end well, is it? Anders and team emerge in a car park on Caprica, all the thrilling locations. It has a few old Earth cars in it, which I guess is better than contemporary Earth cars, but I'm still not buying this as a different culture when they magically have the same design as cars as us. They chose European models, which means I suppose it might work better for viewers from the Americas.
You should have land rams in it and things.
Yeah, exactly. But for us Europeans, we're just left wondering why the colonies import their cars from a couple of decades ago. And there's a 2CV and everything. It's just really obvious for us, but I guess probably not for them. But anyway. Above, in the cafe, we have the weird sight of multiple copies of the same Cylon hanging out together, although they're not talking, apparently, to make it feel stranger. Caprica has worked out that the only reason the number 3 got her to talk to Sharon was so she would find out that Baltar is alive as a test of how well she'd let go of him, basically. A Centurion enters the car park and Anders has to open fire to stop it extinguishing the fag fuse. And the bomb goes bluey!
Bluey! Bang.
Rosalind tells Cottle he has to get a couple to adopt the Cylon child. The Cylons come round in the rubble of the apartments, but with Caprica in a particular mess. They find Anders. Humans don't respect life like we do, Deanna says, as she is about to shoot him, ironically. But Sharon and Caprica stop her. Halo and Boomer are told by Cottle that their baby has died. She accuses him of being a murderer and nearly throttles the poor guy. Yeah. The ashes are released into space from a Folger's coffee tin. Well, possibly not, but anyway.
It does seem really big, Lebowski, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yes. It doesn't all blow back in their face, at least.
Oh, shit, dude, I'm sorry. Goddamn wind. Fuck.
God damn it, Walter. You fucking asshole.
Dude, I'm sorry.
It's a fucking travesty with you, man.
Dude, I'm sorry. It was an accident.
What was that shit about Vietnam?
Dude, I'm sorry.
What the fuck does anything have to do with Vietnam?
Dude, I'm
sorry.
What
the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, I'm sorry.
Anyway, from a Raptor by Halo in a nicely arty shot. And it's nice it's Tyrrell that's there with him as well.
Yeah.
He says goodbye to what he thinks of as his baby. Baltar and Six are grieving too, although it turns out a baby swap has taken place. Rosalind tells the adoptive mom Maya that they'll keep in touch, and again you believe her. Anders wakes up in front of an old 2CV with the improbable reg plate "Sexy Mom."
I know.
What? Really? Baltar tells Caprica that she'll be next to be boxed after Sharon. As the Six says to Deanna, they're celebrities in a culture based on unity, which makes them dangerous. They also don't want to hear that genocide is a sin. When the 3 is distracted by Anders trying to escape, Caprica brains it with a boulder, and the 2 Cylons let him go with his gun. Baltar declares his love for Caprica on her shoulder as she proclaims that their people need to learn to live without hate, and they can lead their people into this new way of thought. Clearly there's trouble ahead when Deanna downloads, but anyway, apparently it's going to take a while. The 2 Cylons are rescued and proclaim themselves to be alive, the question that Six posed of herself at the beginning of the series. It's a nice loop. I mean, this is just a fantastic episode, isn't it?
It's amazing. I love it. You see stuff from the Cylons' point of view, and you're kind of, by the series programmed to see the Cylons as evil, and yet you end up warming to 6 and 8. Don't you?
And not to Deanna, obviously.
No, you hate Deanna. I want to smash her face in too. And so you end up thinking that maybe the Cylons aren't evil. Maybe they're led by a despot, and the issue is that they have a totalitarian regime.
Or maybe But anyway, we shall find out more about
No,
that.
but that's immediately what my thoughts went to. In that, how many people in non-English speaking nations saw the not in my name Iraq war protests from British people? Probably not very many. Probably most non-English speaking people think that British people deliberately bombed Iraq with no provocation on the basis of faked reports of weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. They may not even know that much. And it would be very easy for them to see the British as oppressors. And there's an extent to which they're not wrong, but there's also an extent to which they are wrong. There are people within our society who did everything they could to make a stand against that behaviour. And I see the 6 and 8, Caprica and Sharon, as being like that.
Wow, nobody could accuse us of being too topical anyway in this podcast. Anyway.
Sorry.
I mean, it's a great idea to explore how Caprica and Boom have been changed by their missions with the humans. And it's nice to be turning to stories that push the overall plot forward as well, which is true of the previous episode as well.
Yeah.
Plus, in this one, there's no Apollo or Starbuck.
Yay!
Which makes for a better episode, doesn't it? So.
It does a bit. To be fair, I know that there are some episodes coming up where I like Starbuck.
All right.
I can't say the same with Apollo, I have to be honest. But there are some episodes coming up where I like Starbuck.
Ooh.
It's refreshing, it's different, you're seeing things from the Cylons' point of view, which I love. You've got good Cylons and bad Cylons, so they're not a monochrome enemy.
No.
Which I like. And Deanna is a fucking evil bitch. What's her name? Who plays her?
Xena.
Lucy Lawless?
That's the one, yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing. She makes you hate her. And that's the point, isn't it? She makes you hate her.
And initially she's quite sort of mumsy and caring, seemingly. But
but no, manipulative bitch. A bit like Kai Wynn.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate her, but love her at the same time. Exactly the same as Kai Wynn. And we've heard from Doreen, who writes, "You could have knocked me down with a feather when 6 had a head, Gaius."
That's a brilliant idea.
It's a lovely idea. It's amazing. I love it. And she says it was quite interesting to see Sharon and 6 interacting. No, it is. It is, absolutely.
Sampo and Yona have this to say. This episode is really interesting. After nearly a season of not seeing any Cylons on their home turf, now we get a full episode of them. It's been 9 months since the fall of the colonists. I'm not sure that... Does that seem like a long time or a short time? It feels like it ought to be longer to me, but there you go. Time is a bit wibbly-wobbly in this series. in real life as well. As one might guess, whenever we see 9 months referred to on a television screen, it means that the baby is about to be born. Let's get the birth storyline out the way first. The hybrid is born after some difficulties. I love Cottle complaining to Sharon about them not improving the plumbing. Yeah. Now the president must decide what to do with the inconvenient baby. She makes another tough decision to fake the baby's death, which was a logical choice, I guess. But it was still pretty heartbreaking seeing Halo and Sharon reacting to the fake news.
Yeah.
Someone else who reacts to the news badly is Head 6. It's interesting that although we've seen that 6 sometimes has knowledge that no one else in the fleet has, she's not omniscient, as she also falls for the ruse. But the bulk of the episode is seen from the point of view of the Cylons, and we sure learn a lot. A few things we've taken for granted for the whole series are turned upside down. We've gotten used to the idea that when Cylons die, they just pop into a new body, but now we learn the process is actually pretty painful and sometimes mentally scarring.
But that was raised with Scar, that he'd been traumatised by his rebirths, hadn't he?
And it's not instantaneous. We learn there is a system, and if many Cylons die at once, they have to wait until being brought back to life. And then the big one. We've already established that Head 6 is not just a figment of Boltar's imagination. We assume that it's been part of the Cylons' plan. But then we learn that Caprica 6 has a head Boltar that none of the Cylons are aware of, along with the familiar tingly music. This opens up a load of possibilities. Is a third party influencing both the Cylons and the humans? Or is it some twisted form of conscience? And most importantly, what will happen if Caprica 6 and Boltar meet? Will the head people see each other? Will all sex be a foursome? Oh, my life.
Ew, no, Tar.
And after the episode ended, Yona realised that this was the first episode in what seems like forever where she actually could speculate about what do the things in the episode mean and where are the things going. And for the first time in a long time, I actually had to only be silent because I actually remembered where things were going. Yes. The actual plot is that Boomer is having trouble adjusting to being a Cylon, and Caprica 6 is assigned to help her adjust, but unbeknownst to the rest of the Cylons, she's having trouble as well. Or is it just a plan to get them both boxed? I think ultimately, yes, it's that, isn't it? We also see that Starbuck's terrorist friend is still alive, and blows up a cafe full of Cylons. Which brings us to the question, what are the Cylons actually doing? They've rebuilt Caprica, and now they spend their days sitting awkwardly in cafes and strolling around in parks. Are they actually enjoying themselves, or are they still trying to be as much like humans to be able to reproduce? To be human, you need to go to Starbucks, apparently. Boomer 6 and 3 get trapped under some rubble with Anders. There, the two Cylons finally admit that they felt killing the humans was wrong, and they kill 3 and gang up to do something. What will they do? Remains to be seen. It seems that spending long time with the humans has a habit of corrupting Cylons in some way, because both Sharons as well as Caprica 6 are all dissidents, while the rest of the Cylons seem to be cold, effective and calculating, although they just happen to be different. Last highlight of the episode, a VW Beetle seen in the garage, and the car has been made more futuristic by adding a third light to it. It's pathetic, isn't it? I bet the prop department spent their whole budget on that. This was another great episode, interesting and thought-provoking. More like this, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, wow, this was a fantastic episode. It broke up the regular narrative style in a non-annoying way and gave us a brand new perspective. Getting the Cylon point of view was fascinating and enlightening and got us more Lucy Lawless.
Yay.
Tricia Helfer was excellent as usual, with her Caprica 6 getting her own imaginary Baltar, turning that dynamic on its head. I'm never going to stop singing Tricia Helfer's praises, but I really should compliment Grace Park more often. She got to portray Sharon in two very different situations with the plot. No, she's amazing in this. That poor Cylon human child finally was born, though her chances were still looking pretty grim. I don't understand the terror this baby is responsible for. She's literal proof that humans and Cylons can coexist and should be a symbol of hope and peace. Maybe I'm just too sentimental. At least they let her live in the end, even if putting Sharon and Hilo through the ruse seemed especially cruel. No, it did, actually. Seeing that little body lying so still in the incubator really got to me and had me wondering how they managed it. In addition to the dead Cylon freezer, does the Dharma have another morgue stocked up with a variety of bozzies for substitution purposes? Sorry to finish so ghoulishly, but thanks again for a great podcast. I hope you and all the listeners are hanging in there in these trying times. It seems that Peter may have cracked, though, as What Does God Need with a Podcast is a wonderfully bonkers concept that could only be the product of isolation madness. No, he came up with the idea some months ago.
Yeah, this is before lockdown.
He just is that mad.
But lockdown was the reason to actually put it into action. So yeah, make of that what you will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. We've heard from Andrew on this episode.
Cylons must have very good Wi-Fi to download an entire brain. My Wi-Fi is pretty good, but I don't know if I trust it to download an entire brain. I remember in the feedback for Scar, I mentioned that Scar, being somewhat of a character in its own right, added a little bit of complexity to the Cylons. That seems to continue in this episode. We learn quite a lot about the Cylons. Their more humanoid variety this time. The first thing is that they have a little bit of a philosophy, or at least Deanna Beer's model has a bit of a philosophy about the resurrection process. It's not necessarily just body dies, mind wakes up in a different body. She says that it can be an opportunity for reinvention, and whatever guilt that one accrues in a previous incarnation, one can just let go after the resurrection process. You can think of yourself as a clean slate. So it's not just a technical process, there's been some thinking and rumination on the philosophy of it. One thing that kind of slips a little bit under the radar is something that's said by, I think it's 6, it might be Sharon, Caprica 6 I mean, or Sharon, when they're all trapped under the rubble. And they say something to the effect of, and I didn't write this down and I wish I had, but it's something to the effect of, we're a threat to Deanna Beers because we represent singular voices in a culture that values unity. Something like that. I'm not sure that's something we knew before, that the Cylons valued unity. At least it's not been said out loud. And then we have Caprica 6 and reincarnated original Sharon, who kind of come to the same place but from different directions. Caprica 6, the knowing Cylon agent who was a firm believer in the cause, and Sharon, the sleeper agent, still angry at herself and at the Cylons for her betrayal of Adama and the Galactica. Angry at herself for doing it, angry at the Cylons for programming her to do it. But they kind of come to the same place in the end. Because of love, you could say. Because of Six's love for Baltar and because of Sharon's love for the Galactica crew. And speaking of Baltar there, we have a new Baltar. We have Six's Baltar. We had Baltar 6 and now we have Six's Baltar. So clearly something is going on there. It'd be a very unlikely coincidence that both of them are just happening to have hallucinations, intrusive hallucinations of the other one. So something is up. And this Baltar, Six's Baltar, he's everything that Baltar would want to be. He's emollient, he's persuasive, he's perceptive, he's inside Six's head. Way up! I think there is something to the notion that whatever these hallucinations or apparitions are, they are almost idealized versions of the people who they resemble. Idealized in the mind of the person having the hallucination, I mean. Let's go to Galactica now, where there is a literal kidnapping. Sharon's baby is stolen from her, and Luke and Leia to some rando in the fleet. Who could possibly blame Sharon for believing that they'd murdered her baby after a couple of episodes ago when Roslin ordered the pregnancy be terminated? I think, given the situation, it's not an unreasonable conclusion to come to at all. And how could they really possibly expect her to believe that they didn't, even though they didn't? Not that what Sharon thinks and feels about the situation is a very high priority for President Roslin, I would imagine, in dealing with any of this. Nor Hilo, actually. Adama's advice to him a couple of episodes ago when they were about to terminate the pregnancy was, suck it up. It's happening, deal with it. And Hilo's not grabbing anybody by the throat or anything or accusing anybody of murder, but given the last few episodes, can he really be 100% sure that they didn't kill his baby? And then he has to go and work with these people, he has to work for Adama. You know, a lot of people in a lot of jobs can be 100% certain that their co-workers and bosses haven't ordered the killing of their child. Right now, given everything that's happened, I don't think Hilo can be one of them. I think that's about all I have time for, so stay safe, be well, and remember, don't love. Alright, bye for now.
Bye!
He's still feeling very cheerful, isn't he? Yes. Anyway.
You're right that there seems to be a philosophy, possibly even a theology, around the resurrection process that Deanna is coming out with. To me, that suggests this whole thing has been going on for far longer than just the attacks. To me, if they've developed, even if just one Cylon has developed a philosophy or theology around the whole resurrection thing, Cylons have been walking among humans undetected for far, far longer than the humans have realised, if they've been able to have time to develop a theology of it.
Mm.
And I like that as a concept.
And yes, the Baltar and Six on the shoulder, so to speak, they're supposed to be the idealised version.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The God of Llamas.
Well, this is very much an episode of two halves for me, wasn't it? On the one hand, it's given me something that I've been asking for quite some time, and on the other hand, it gave me something that I really didn't want at the moment, and I think you can probably guess which one that was. Again, I remember the general beats of what was going to happen with Sharon and Hilo's baby, but as the episode started, I couldn't remember that it was actually going to happen in this one. And indeed, when we get the flashback that says that it was 9 months ago, did a brief calculation and realised that Sharon wasn't quite yet ready to give birth just yet. And then we see her giving birth, and all of the parental instincts that I appear to be developing suddenly flared into life in a big way. So that was fun. That was fun for me. Obviously, Naturally, this brings to the ball the big question of what to do with the baby, because although we knew that the President wasn't keen on having it around, it also has miracle blood, something that doesn't seem to be mentioned during this episode. And yes, as I commented on the previous episode, once the baby's born, we did have the brief boring moment where it seemed like Rosalind did just want to flush it out of the airlock. But it turns out that she's not quite that irredeemable, not just yet anyway, in that she doesn't go for that option, she goes for the simpler option of bait and switch. Now, yeah, this is a bit traumatic for Hilo and Sharon, but from her point of view, it's a good compromise. The baby gets to live, but Sharon doesn't get to raise it in the teachings of the evil Cylon Empire. So I guess for a change, the President might do the morally least bad thing. Yeah, she's fucked around with Sharon and Hilo's emotions quite a bit, but it's become clear over the last few weeks that neither she nor Adama really care a jot about those. So yeah, the baby is still out there. That's reassuring. Although the scene with Sharon and the dead, I'm assuming that was a recently deceased baby, which is equally sad, but in different ways. And the scene with Sharon and that baby, when she thought it was her own, definitely did play on me quite a bit. One good thing about these scenes though was Doc Cottle. He was fantastic in all his scenes, especially his line, "You people went to all the trouble and didn't upgrade the plumbing." Brilliant. And it does beg some questions about the Cylons and what they're actually hoping to achieve by looking so much human. And yes, we get some answers, kind of, do we? Not really. But we finally get back to seeing things from the Cylons' point of view on occupied Capra again. And this has been long overdue, as I've been saying about in Plan Watch. Even better than that, not only is it the Cylons, but it's a bathroom scene. Yes, the Cylons come back in the bath, a bath full of strange, sticky fluids that seem to be essential in making new people. Yes, it's a jacuzzi full of jizz. This builds on what we learned in Scar, that rebirth is a traumatic experience. It's not just being downloaded and carrying on as normal. The consequences of being killed for the Cylons are very real, very actual mental trauma, and what it does show is that Cylons really don't seem to care that much. For all their talk of wanting to be better than humanity, they're very cold and indifferent and uncaring to those that are actually suffering, and that doesn't really give a lot of hope for the future and the development of the Cylon race. Especially when we learn that if Cylons can't be fixed, then they get boxed, put away with locked up. Exactly how does that actually make the Cylons any better than the humanity? Sharon asks the question, does humanity deserve to survive? I don't know, do the Cylons? This seems quite cold. But then there is also the issue of conformity. Resurrected Sharon and Caprica 6 is going to become known. The fact that they stand out, they're individuals, they differ, that's an important thing. It's either a powerful positive thing or it's a threat. And much as the Cylons want to move on and seem to want to evolve, they seem to be stuck in the patterns that they know as well, which really isn't that too far from their creators either. As we see by Diana's reaction, she considers them to be corrupted and impure, and this is obviously a problem for her. So it does beg the question what the Cylons were planning to achieve anyway. And it definitely does show there are bigger problems with there being only a few models of Cylon, and perhaps does harken back to the whole plan of trying to create a new baby. And maybe part of the problem with the race was the fact they were so limited, that only having a fixed number of models made them rigid and inflexible. Maybe that's what part of the baby project was in the first place, which does then beg the question, do all the models know about it? I mean, they seem to. Does that mean some people disagree? It's a very interesting question about the unity and maybe the lack thereof. But definitely, if one of the things this episode wanted to show was that there's a need to introduce variety into the Cylon population to provide different points of view, to maybe prevent them from stagnating, given the limited resource pool that they've actually got, then yeah, this episode does a pretty good job of showing that. What's most fascinating, though, is discovering that Caprica 6 has a Baltar in her head. There's a very brief suggestion that Baltar's a Cylon just when she first wakes up, but it was very clever of the episode to not let that linger for more than just a fraction of a second, because they clearly know that if there had been the danger that Baltar was actually a Cylon, then that would kind of invalidate everything that's happened before, and it would be a cheap trick. So yeah, they let that hang for just a second before revealing that he's a hallucination. And that really does open up the question once again, is what is Head 6 and what is Head Baltar? Did they leave impressions of each other as a result of that nuclear blast, or what? Because Baltar doesn't have a chip in his head, and yeah, okay, Caprica 6 does have a chip in her head is just chips, but it's not quite the same thing. So yeah, this is interesting. They both have consciences which take the form of each other, and in both cases those consciences are also harder and harsher and drive them to do more extreme things. In Baltar's case, he's ended up being quite manipulative, manipulating his way into becoming a candidate for presidency, and in Caprica 6's case, she ends the episode wanting to take on a leadership role. She and Sharon are going to try and want to try and change the Cylon race, lead them into a better world. So yeah, that's also personal ambition, but potentially for greater goals. Caprica 6 does at least seem to be motivated by more than just personal gain, at the moment anyway. So yeah, this was definitely a very interesting episode with, again, interesting questions asked and difficult answers given. But we definitely get a sense of moving the main plots forward as we head towards the end of the season. And definitely it's the case that the producers appear to have learned from the previous episodes, with multiple plots happening per episode, and that definitely gave the episodes a sense of momentum and definitely kept the interest going. So yeah, these were both of them much better. This does also mean that we're going to have to abandon at least one of the watches now. Pregnancy watch? Yep, that's over, isn't it? Well, not for us, we've still got to keep watching watching for a bit, although hopefully ours is going to end up with the same fate as Heroes is, although Heroes alive, so yeah, what she can do in the future. And in terms of plan watch, well, the Silence had a plan, but it appears to have been an odd plan, a plan to destroy the human race, but read with us to maybe add variety, whilst also not liking or even wanting something to disrupt the unity. Interesting. I'm guessing that subsequent episodes are going to continue to show us different facets of this, so yeah, clearly whatever plan they had wasn't the best of plans, and they are yet another imperfect creations. Anyway, I hope that everyone else is keeping safe, and I look forward to hearing what everyone else has to say on your podcast. Yeah, we'll just tell them that it went to live on a farm. Wait, is this still on?
Okay, well, at least they weren't resurrected in a toilet anyway. I mean, a bath is slightly more hygienic, even if it is full of jizz. Lovely.
Yeah, jizz bath. Yum,
I almost contacted Lam and give him a trigger warning for this, but then I remembered he had seen it before, so I assumed he knew what was coming. So yes, Lammy Charlie.
I mean, I guess you can argue that it is a good compromise. That they have reason.
Well, it's better than spacing. Let's face it.
Because they do have reason to think that, you know, if the Cylons think that the birth of this baby is a good thing, then from their point of view, it can't be a good thing. I get that as a concept. So they say it's dead, but don't kill the baby and give it to someone else. You know, I get that reasoning. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I get the reasoning. In terms of the need for variety in Cylon populations, I like that as an idea, that they've only got 12 models, which is a very small genetic base. So maybe they are deliberately designed to be influenced by what they encounter, and it is that Deanna is reacting against. But perhaps, actually, she shouldn't.
Well, ultimately, the idea was that they couldn't breed, could they? So that's what they needed humans for.
Yeah.
Which doesn't quite fit with the wiping them all out, but never mind.
No, but they had tried breeding and failed, and you do need genetic variety. So the idea that whoever it was who designed all of these Cylon things, and I don't know that I understand it either in this series or the original one, I'm not sure.
Well, in this series, it's supposed to be human beings, of course. But it was kind of like they designed the Centurions, who then somehow designed these more humanoid Cylons. So.
But at the end of the day, 12 it's a manageable genetic pool, but it's still quite small. So the idea that you're going to have your Cylons be deliberately shaped by their experiences is then going to, in theory at least, result in adaptation, which will then ultimately result in more genetic variety through the process of evolution. So I get that Cylons are designed to be shaped by their experiences. The problem is that Deanna doesn't like the way they've been shaped. She strikes me as a real control freak. And I'm saying this genuinely from a point of view that I can't remember this. So this is a guess. It's not based on what I've known before. Does your number denote rank?
I'm not sure is the answer to that. But interestingly, we haven't met number 1 yet, of course, yet. So
no, but Deanna is, as a 3...
Yeah, that's quite high up, yeah.
Is behaving as though she's got seniority over a 6 and 8, isn't she?
Vaguely, yeah. But this particular 6 and 8 is the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me wonder. Does number denote rank?
Not sure. I don't think so, actually, from what I remember. But anyway, let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of this one.
Yo! So we've just watched Downloaded.
Yes.
And what did we think of that one then?
I really enjoyed it, actually.
That was intriguing.
It was intriguing.
That was kind of like... I don't think we spoke for the whole 45 minutes doing that.
No, it was interesting stuff.
Yeah, so let's go through some stuff then.
Okay, 12 models has been revealed.
Yeah, no, but we already knew that, didn't we? I'm sure they said that in previous episodes.
I've been keeping an ear out. I might be wrong on that, but I think this might be the first.
Does it not come up in the credits? There are 12 Cylon models.
Oh yeah, it might do. Does it?
I'm pretty sure it does. I wasn't surprised when they said there was 12.
Oh.
So
might be wrong on that then.
Yeah, so maybe
we'll look at the credits after this.
I might be completely wrong, but I'm sure I've seen that before. So the Cylon's being reborn. I remembered this episode as soon as that kind of started.
Okay, yeah. We knew that, though. We know that they were reborn,
but it was freaky. Why when they do like kind of... It's like the Matrix as well. Everyone has to be reborn into goo.
Yeah.
Why? All you're really doing is like doing a brain transplant or a mind transplant. You don't have to be in goo. And they're handcuffed to the side. I didn't quite get that.
I guess that they're not thrashing around or whatever. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but the only person that kind of has any moral compass about what's happening is Sharon. And she didn't kind of thrash that much. There was loads around. If they wanted to, they could have restrained her. But, yeah, I just don't get all this goo.
No. So, Caprica 6 sees Boltar.
Yes,
like
I was gonna say,
Boltar
they've kind of
sees Caprica 6.
Flip reversed, haven't they?
Yeah.
So they've, like, on the present day...
It's another reveal.
Caprica is obviously, he's her earwormy.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was quite weird to see. So now we know that Boss Lady is number 3.
Yeah, Sharon's 8, Caprica 6.
Is Sharon 8? Okay, that's good. Sharon is 8.
They said some 5s. I think he's that other guy that we saw a lot of.
Right, yeah.
I don't know, though.
But number 3 is a fracking psycho, isn't she?
Yeah.
She is like a hardball.
Yep.
Off and on. And to be fair, when they were like digging out, after they'd had the explosion and they were digging out in the car park, and she was just kind of lifting up boulders and like throwing it.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed, and you did say, well, they are like
they are
machines,
like
they're super
Cylons,
strong.
aren't they? Yeah.
But then it took like 2 attempts to crack a noggin from 6.
Yeah.
To
Well,
like
they're tough.
really like pow. I mean, that was a bit like intense, wasn't it?
Yep.
They could have just
Right in the kisser.
Yeah.
I like these cigarette fuses.
Yeah.
See,
okay.
smoking kills. Yeah, saving that one up.
Did you think about that
I did,
when
yeah.
it was in? Very good. I like that one. So it's quite sad with the baby.
Yes, yeah, I know. We're all like, oh yeah, it's a great episode. Yeah, some
So
heavy
Rosalind
stuff.
is being a bit shitty. So in one respect, so in the last episode, she's going against her abortion thesis, kind of saying, you know, forget about women having free rights. We now need to preserve like the generations. And now she's basically happy to pretend that a baby has died.
Well, yeah, but that's not anything to do with abortion, is it?
No, I'm not saying that, but just her whole kind of outlook has changed. She was like a goodie, and now she's kind of playing shit.
I think she's just trying to do the best for humanity, isn't it? That's the thing. She's divorcing her emotions from like the wisest decision, and she's saying we can't let Sharon, who's a Cylon, bring up the Cylon baby.
But is it better to let her think that her baby has died than to say, actually, you're a prisoner of war, you're in captivity, therefore we are taking the decision to adopt out your child?
Yeah, but she did also say if the Cylons know that the child's around, they will stop at nothing to get it.
That's true.
She's just eliminating
That's
it. I'm
true.
not saying I agree with it, but I understand her motives of being very clinical about it.
Okay, we're talking about clinical, so whose was that dead baby?
I know.
I thought that was pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Because obviously another child prematurely had died, and they're kind of passing it off as Hilo and Sharon's.
Yep.
But then not half a day before, the baby had been in an incubator, oxygen reliant, and then half a day later it's on a plane going home with Mamma Mia.
Yeah, I know that.
Mamma
weird,
Mia!
isn't it?
Yeah! There you go, just made it.
Yeah, perhaps it really healed quickly. We know it's got...
You don't heal quickly, like
well,
when
you
you've
know...
got underdeveloped lungs.
But they gave the blood to Rosalind to make cure her cancer. Perhaps it's got healing properties.
Well, maybe they should have explained that then, because it just seems a bit weird. Anyway, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
An episode without
Good
shit-faced
stuff.
Starbuck is a good one for me.
Yep.
To be fair. So let's have another one.
Okie dokie.
Leave it there.
All right.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. No, Sharon's baby was swapped out for another baby that had died.
Yeah.
So it's not like the baby suddenly recovered. That was a dead baby, but it wasn't Hera.
Yeah. And arguably, the reason that Hera is still alive, to be passed over to the woman Maya without an incubator, is because of the Cylon healing properties that were discovered in that previous episode.
Possibly. Rosalind's always been tough on Cylons, though. This isn't
Yeah.
a sudden change in her character. She's always been for spacing
Yeah.
them. So, yeah, that's consistent.
Consistent, yeah. And, yeah, smoking does kill. But Doc Cottle wouldn't make you think that.
No. And I think, it does mention the 12 models in the
Yeah, it
opening
does.
credits, doesn't it?
does.
Yes, there are 12 of them, yeah. I think the goo might be to preserve the bodies, because obviously they've got like fresh bodies each time they download, so presumably they're kept in that goo so the bodies don't go off.
Yeah.
But yes, why does it always have to be goo is a good question to be asking, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know.
Blame Noel Edmonds, I think. Anyway.
Right. Looks like paper mache, doesn't it? What did Parry make of this?
Hello again, Parry here to talk about Downloaded. Now this is a very interesting episode, and indeed this is getting some very interesting stuff built up. So I'm going to actually talk about it's not a minor point, but it's the lesser part where Sharon has her baby, and it's fine for a while that it's premature, and then basically they decide, well, they can't kill the baby, but they don't want it brought up by Sharon, so their alternative is to basically adopt it off but tell her the baby died. Cottle doesn't look particularly happy with this, but he kind of plays along. And that's kind of that plot there, and indeed there is some things of, because they don't want the Cylons to know the baby's alive, so it's very much the whole scuttlebutt is that the baby died, and that's even what Baltar thinks at this time. But actually baby Hera's off to another ship, and really, again, we've got these kind of dark secrets between maybe 2-3 people in the fleet. So it's a major plot point, but it's actually a very minor part. The meat of this episode is the stuff happening on Caprica. Yeah, I thought we wouldn't have that for a while. I thought the Anders bit was not strictly necessary, but I suppose it's nice enough to have him, and it's nice to see he's still there. But he was he could have been AN resistance fighter. It didn't have to be Anders, but I suppose we've got the guy on tick anyway, so why not? No, the real focus here is we get to see a lot about the downloading of the Cylons. So we first see Caprica being reborn after the Cylon attack, and then later we see Boomer after she was shot. And indeed, I think this is probably where we've got to start being clear. So Caprica is the Six who was Baltar's girlfriend. Not head Six, that's the Six in his head, but Caprica is the one who's got to head Baltar in an awful suit. I actually think Six does a slightly better job as head spirit, but I did quite like Baltar going around doing that, and it's nice to give James Callis a bit of a different way to act, because again, the acting's very different. His and again, both him and Tricia Helfer both do a really good job of differing the head versions of themselves to the versions you see. Now we also, of course, have Boomer, who still thinks she's Boomer. She knows she's not Boomer, but she's still got a lot of that personality. And they kind of form a bond, which is really interesting considering the Six that we saw on Caprica. And was this Caprica? I don't know. But her relationship with Sharon, which seems very antagonistic, but instead they're kind of trying to avoid being boxed, which again is something where you're basically put on ice, your memories are frozen. And it is interesting that I suppose it's clear that different Sixes, different Threes, different Eights have different personalities, but they are all identical. But there is this kind of idea of our Cylons beginning to develop a more individualistic sense with people like Caprica and that sort of thing. And there's just a lot of interesting stuff. Also, it's just fun to see the giant Cylon Centurions planting trees. I also want to see them picking up litter, walking dogs, and hoovering. That's on my bucket list for things that I'd like to see the Cylons do. But yeah, a really interesting, it was mostly a Cylon episode, and it's actually really good to get an insight into the Cylons and not what their plans are, but just the fact that it is not all perfect and monolithic within the Cylons, that we do have factions forming. Also the fact that downloading is a damn traumatic. You do, effectively all of them remember dying when they die. So for all that, yes, they can be reborn, I suppose the more reborn a Cylon gets, it maybe gets a bit crazy, and that's probably why Scar was so grumpy. So yeah, overall this one was really solid, and again had some really interesting stuff in it. So I still don't know how Anders got out, but there you go. He had a backdoor, clearly. But yeah, so overall a couple of good episodes. This one probably the better of the two. So all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I look forward to the next one. And again, as always in the current situation, everyone out there stay safe, and I'll be back for the next one. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers, chap.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'd like to see bullet heads walking dogs. Hoovering and dusting.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we see them cleaning toilets.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and Anders, the only reason it needs to be Anders is because he's got Starbucks dog tag on him, I suppose, so they can recognise that.
It makes a connection, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they do make the point that there's some fresh air coming in from somewhere, so they sort of send him down wherever this fresh air is coming from, basically, is the idea. But they do try and explain that one.
Yeah. And again, it is really good to see that Caprica 6 has a head bolter. So that any ideas you might have thought you'd come up with as to why Baltar had a head 6, nearly all of them get turned on their head in that moment, because she's got the equivalent, and you're like, what the fuck is going on now? I don't know anymore. Which I like. I like that the show makes you question what you thought you knew.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who's fed back. Next time we'll be recording on Friday the 15th, and we'll be covering Lay Down Your Burdens Part 1 and 2, the conclusion to Season 2 of BSG. If this isn't enough of me, then every other week over on our Borgcast feed, you can listen to me doing a commentary with a guest on Star Trek 5. Yes, that's every 2 weeks I'm watching Star Trek 5. That's,
because he's mad.
That's my dedication to the wonder that is Star Trek 5.
Dedication.
Yeah.
Dedication. That's what
And if that doesn't finally send me around the bend, I don't know what will. Anyway, as has been said, do take care, everybody. So say we all.
So say we all. The music at the beginning of this podcast was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
All other music is used for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
The artwork for Borgcast Galactica was created by Andy Palastides.
To contact us, send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Contact us via Twitter at rev_org or Borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Visit our website at galactica.libsyn.com.
Or view images relating to our cast on our Tumblr site, borgcast.tumblr.com.
And there's also a Spotify playlist with all our play-out tunes on it.
Shut it down!
Fire command.
Wada bada.